don't know. Drama from the beginning. But anyways, this is what happens in life.
You made the heavens, planted the earth, gave us stars for direction. But what was it worth if we don't have love? Oh, your perfect love. You filled the oceans, painted the sky, gave us each other. So tell me why, why we're lacking love. Oh, why we're lacking love. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Yeah, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? My Lord, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, you can prophesy, speak in the tongues you made, but if you don't have compassion, how will they understand that we were made from love? Oh, we were made from love. Oh, yeah. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? My Lord, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Oh, can't you see the darkness trying to divide? Oh, you know it's up to us to keep shining bright and let our hearts stay lifted high. Time to spread more love. Oh, perfect love, supernatural love. Your love.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Drama to Dharma. I hope you enjoyed the music, and my name is Josie Herndon. We have a very special guest this week. His name is David Strickel, and I know for some of you there's little delays. For some reason, it didn't get shared with my two main Facebooks, Try Angels and Josie James, but we're going to be working on getting that up for you guys, so I hope that, that you'll catch it now or later. As the wonderful thing about the internet, you can always get the shows later. All right. Well, the show that you're watching now, if you haven't seen it before or participated, is about Drama to Dharma, basically the daily dramas of life, daily life, and how we can flow into Dharma at any given moment that we set our intention to. Or when we're in a state of Dharma, which can be Zen and peace, how quickly we can switch to what we would call drama, stress, or chaos in the world. So it's kind of a multi-dimensional idea. So we discuss daily life on this show and how we can help encourage each other to be in that place of alignment with who we truly are. And the wisdom that comes through me is Archangel Gabriel. So Gabriel will give messages through this show, and we'll have people ask questions. So what's interesting tonight is that we have David Strickel, the stream of David. And David is, I think David and I are like hours apart from birth. So we're just, practically born on the same day, the same year. We won't say necessarily what year it is, but we're just a few hours apart. We came into this planet together, and we've known each other for a few years now, but we do similar things with our spiritual paths. And we both have had interesting, journeys of professional lives and then doing our spiritual work. So I'd like to bring David up. We're going to talk about our experiences. Hi, David. Welcome.
Good to see you, Josie. Hello, everybody.
Good to see you. So I was just, with your introduction, it was interesting because I've had a lot of guests on my show, but I haven't had anybody like you that's similar to me, although we're all the same. But I remember one time we were at an event together, and that was really nice because we each gave messages from our source, and yours is the stream. So that was very cool. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I like how you put it that we all have this. We all have source flowing through us, however you identify that. I call it source, so it's a real general term. But to me, it is that amalgam of eternal consciousness that is the source of all creation. So whatever you want to call that is your experience with it. So I call it source,
Yes.
and I tap into that and I channel it. I've been doing that my whole life, although I had no clue what channeling was. I thought it was something that everybody could do.
Right.
And I think in our own ways, our intuition is exactly that. And it's been coming my whole life, but I really ignored it and kind of hid it for a long, long time until I got into my 40s. You've heard my story, and you and I were born almost exact, like you said, within 24 hours or less.
I was, I think, in my 40s as well when I started. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't come to terms with it. I kept it hidden until my early 40s. And then after I came to terms with it and accepted it and stopped judging it and stopped judging the whole spiritual community as something that I didn't want to be part of, then it started really flowing in a much more profound way. Excuse me. And I really started paying attention to it beyond just the material things, really understanding the universal process of creation and moving beyond just focusing on stuff, because I knew how to manifest stuff. I really paid attention to that creation portion of it. And it was a very loving energy. So I was a very compassionate person, but I was also very empathic, and I really didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't like being in big crowds. I didn't like being with a lot of people. If I ever had to go to a party or something, I needed to drink right away just to calm all that down, which ended up not being a good thing. But I got through all of that and got into my early 40s and really started to embrace it and embrace my quote unquote weirdness. And in doing so, I really reinvented my life. And I got to a point, even though I had a very, very successful corporate career, I got to a point where I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I had to start sharing it. And that's when I was very inspired by Esther Hicks' channeling of Abraham. I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with that.
Well, that was my inspiration as well.
Well, she made it seem okay. It wasn't freaky or weird or,
Well, when I first heard her tapes, and that's what it was, they were tapes when I first heard Abraham and Esther, and I just felt at home when I heard Abraham's voice through her.
Yeah, so it was just very comfortable.
Very comforting, and I couldn't get enough of it, actually.
Oh, I understand. I was right. I was in the same.
So I think we were connecting to source at that time. We were like, well, this is what we're going to, without realizing it. Because some people didn't resonate with it as much as I did. I was like.
Yeah, well, for me, it was getting past, the idea of channeling was not foreign, but I saw people who were channeling and they were going into all these convulsions and stuff. And I understand what that experience is now. And I don't judge it the way now that I did.
Yeah.
But it frightened me and I judged it. And then when I encountered Abraham, like you said, it was just like, this is what I've been understanding my whole life. And now someone is speaking it back to me.
Yeah.
And I loved that. In my first book, I credited Esther Hicks with allowing me to channel because she made it seem very natural and okay. And I remember I used to tell people, because I would always evangelize Abraham. You've got to listen to Abraham. It's amazing. It's the keys to the universe. And they would say, what is it? And I would, who is this Abraham dude? Well, it's not a dude. It's a woman. You have to get into all that. And then I would say, you know what? Don't worry about where it's coming from. Just listen to the message and see if it resonates. And now I say that about myself. Don't worry so much about where it's coming from. Listen to the message, see if it resonates. And if it does, then you know it's the right message for you.
Right. Yeah, that was, and for me, I had never heard of channeling, and because I was raised very Christian and conservative. And so if I heard of channeling, it was something that wasn't Christian. I don't know how to say it. Just
well, I was raised in a Christian scenario where anything
so
not Jesus is evil.
Right. So that's exactly right. So I was stayed as far away from it as I possibly could. And, I'll never forget somebody had once asked me if I would do Reiki. And, this was so many years ago, and I freaked out and I ran out of the house. I was like, no, I didn't know what Reiki was. So I was like, and I see people like that now sometimes with the work when I speak about it. And so intuitively, I know how to, kind of relate to them because I was in the same place. So I'm careful about what I say and how I say what we do. And I don't necessarily have to say anything actually, because it's all energy. So we can just, depending on who we're with, we could just spread the love and kindness, and then that energy will flow. Our energy will flow through them as well. So I've been doing a lot of that through meditation. It's just like knowing that that channel is, coming through me, but without words sometimes, or the words will just be intuitive, so that it's not only about what, if people believe in what I do or not. I don't even bring it up sometimes, although sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I've done that's a little different perhaps is I needed with the Abraham teachings, I loved them and they resonated, but there were elements of it that frustrated me, and it was my own process. There's nothing wrong with the Abraham teaching, so don't come with that.
Oh, sure. No.
You can't say anything bad about Esther. Esther's beloved, so
I know.
So I want to make sure that people know that I'm not saying anything critical. But for me, I needed a system. And so when I started channeling, almost automatically, I started creating this system. I realized I'd created a system in my life and I could start teaching it to other people. And that's where Taya came from, was I teach people a system now to take all of those teachings, all of that eternal law that really everyone's teaching, and apply it in your life and make it a mindset that you apply in your life. And it's very effective. Because I needed a system. Some people just need a system, but not everybody does.
Can you give us a little idea of what the system is?
Yeah, we do a lot of things. It's funny because I haven't followed a lot of other spiritual teachings. So there's all these things.
I haven't either. That's why people always ask me if I know this or that and the other.
Yeah, our mutual friend Debbie, she's constantly throwing names at me. I'm like,
I don't ever know. We both probably give her the same look.
Never done any of that stuff. And I have I've created these things from the channeled messages that were almost like an invention of mine. I thought, that's this cool thing. In fact, at one time I thought law of attraction was my creation back in 1982 when I was 14. And I came to understand that it was not my creation, but these practices and these concepts that we have labeled, and we go deep into what we call detuning. Well, a lot of people know that as shadow work. And until I started teaching it to people, some people say, well, this is shadow work. This is essentially, it's a little different than that, but essentially it is shadow work. So the detuning process of detuning all transgressors, meaning finding radical appreciation for your transgressors and the transgressors of the world. It's essentially removing judgment from everything, because that's the source perspective, right? So when you remove judgment from all of humanity, then you are merged with source because you are in alignment with that consciousness. So we have a practice where we do that, and you get better and better and better at it, applying it in your everyday reality. So that's a big one. That's a hard one for a lot of people. We
talk about that a lot with Gabriel. Absolutely. That's our number one. And because what he says, of course, is that when you judge others and you're judging yourself, we're all mirrors. So nobody ever wants to hear that. And then when you stop judging others, then you'll stop judging yourself. Or if you stop judging yourself, then you can stop judging others. So it's this cycle of, whatever it is that we that we judge somebody about, or just judge anything, then that's something that, and I've had a lot of people tell me, no, that just doesn't seem right, because how can, if I was judging that have anything to do with me? That's something I still wouldn't do. And it's like, okay, well, that's the polarity. Gabriel says that's the polarity, because that's why you're bothered by it, because it's something, maybe it's something you think you would never do. But with polarity, it's something that, that we all have polarity. There's a duality. So that's all real. So that's an interesting concept. But judgment is the first thing that we talk about, because it's just a big block, a huge block of energy that just holds us back. And it stops the judgment, will stop the manifestation, of happening. There's so many blocks when it comes to law of attraction, that just certain thoughts in our mind that can quickly just stop the flow from coming through.
Yeah. Well, I call that static.
Static,
and you talk about polarity. We talk a lot about vibrational flow.
Yeah.
And vibrational flow is that up and down sort of roller coaster ride that we're all on, and we're all very aware of it because our emotions are an expression of that.
Yeah.
When we're up in higher vibrational territory and we're connected with source, understanding your abundance and believing it and trusting it is just natural up there.
Yes.
But then when the vibration drops, and this is where I really struggled with a lot of law of attraction teachings, the vibration drops, and you revisit that thing you really think you have to be happy, and you don't feel the same about it. That's static.
Yeah.
That's what you're speaking to right there. It's that static of, you're up here and the universe only answers yes. So you're up here and you are aligned with whatever it is that you want. The universe isn't judging it. So you're aligned with whatever, and the universe is saying, yes, here it is. And then you are fixated on it because it's important to you. That's why the big stuff is so difficult. Polarity takes us down. You revisit, and what happens? You're like, gosh, how's that going to happen? How's it going to work? That never worked before. That's not going to work for me. This doesn't seem possible. I need to be more logical. And we notice that when the vibration drops, we become more polarized.
Yeah.
Right?
That's absolutely true.
That's the key to abundance block right there.
And everybody has a capacity for any vibration. So that's why judgment is null and void, really, because we all, one day we'll all be here, whatever, and you're not connecting with somebody because you feel like they're here. And then the other, we all have the capacity to be at any vibration as a human.
Yeah, well, that's the human experience, right? We're not here to just be perfect.
Well, no, if we were, then we wouldn't be here, they say. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've come to understand now that the things that we consider negative in life aren't negative at all. Right. They are there to inspire new creation, and that creation is expansion.
Yeah.
And expansion is the work here, right? We come to physical to have that human experience of expansion.
That's right.
And you reframe everything in your life suddenly to just a collection of experiences, rather than that was awful, this was terrible, this was great, I wish that hadn't have happened. We have a Facebook group, and we ask people when they come in, what would you like to change about your childhood? And it's very telling. They have all these regrets about things from childhood and all this trauma and stuff like that they wish were different. And it really shows us where they are in their process and gives us an opportunity to start a dialogue with them about reshaping all of that stuff. And you can tell how far along people are in their work by how they frame their past.
Right.
And how they judge their past or not.
That's right. And the other thing is, right now, talking about this reframing is important because people are so scared about everything. I mean, there's just so much going on the planet. But I don't watch the news very much. I mean, I would lie if I said I never watched it, but stuff comes on my phone.
Well, how can you not if you're on Facebook?
I haven't even been on Facebook hardly the last few months, just because I was getting, but you're right. I mean, it comes up, so things will pop up and, on my phone, and then I start going down the rabbit hole, like what,
It's addictive. It's fed you in a way that it can be very, very addictive.
And so easily can I go up or down with just the news, So do you have any thoughts on that when you're talking to people about where we are now and just, moving
forward? I've done enough of this work now to where I see everything that's happening in life and in across humanity and the entire earth environment as perfection. And I authentically see it that way, although I still operate in vibrational flow. So I still get moody. And I will tell you something, Josie. I noticed that I'm very mindful of my vibrational space where I am on the spiral, if you will. But that doesn't stop me from going down. And I realize that if I'm triggered if I pop open the news and something draws me in and triggers me, I was already down to begin with, or I would have not been in alignment with even seeing that.
That's
And
true.
I've shared this story a lot this year, because as everyone in the United States is aware, and probably most everybody in the world, on January 6th, we had the riot at the Capitol, and the Capitol was invaded. And I was sitting in this studio on that day. I should have been working, and I was instead looking at my phone. And I was, there was a lot of things going on in politics at the time, and I was flipping between Fox News and CNN, to try to get some balance of things.
Yes.
And I saw that was happening, and it triggered me. That shouldn't be happening. That's wrong. Those people shouldn't be doing that. All that judgment of that bubbled up. And I have a stopgap that I do where I stop myself and say, is this worth going down my spiral over? My answer is always no. I catch it. If I'm already there, then I'm already in lower vibration, and I catch it. So I put my phone down and I went and meditated in the living room. And this clarity just immediately washed over me, the clarity of source. And it was completely removing the judgment from the scenario and realizing the people that are doing that are operating in their bubble of reality, and they're doing exactly what they think they need to do with passion. And all of my friends that are on Facebook freaking out about it right now are doing exactly what they should do in their bubble of reality. And I can disconnect from all of it, raise my vibration on the topic, and understand that I don't need, what was the transgressor? What is the trigger in this for me? Why was I triggered by it? And I love that I identified that it was this justice, this need for justice. And I thought, I've never taken the time to detune the idea of justice, because it's an illusion anyway. And I detuned judgment in that moment of justice, and never, ever, ever have I needed justice for anything again. Everything that followed all of that on that topic, I wasn't triggered by it anymore. I didn't go seek it out. I couldn't even tell you what the outcome of that is at this point.
Right.
If you are seeing through the eyes of source, which we can all do, and loving everything and everyone, justice isn't even an issue anymore.
Right. Yeah. There's justice pretty much is complete. And like you said, I think that's beautiful, because that's one of my favorite things to do, is to meditate on seeing the world through the eyes of source, and that source sees the world through my eyes. So we're all like, just like,
and we all, and that's everyone.
We all do. But all we have to do is ask. We just have to ask. That's all. That's like a tool that I teach my friends and stuff. Is just and it's like, well, once you do that, you could just say that in the mirror. I want to see the world through your eyes, and if you see the world through my eyes, God, source, God, Heavenly Father, and just see the world through your eyes today, and then you'll just feel the whole love all day. And the angels will do.
Yeah, when you're there, right?
Oh, you know when that source is flowing. You just know when you're there, and then everything else kind of falls apart, and it doesn't even reveal itself, right? Once you're in that place, it doesn't reveal itself, like you said, because you're kind of at a totally different vibration than the news and the despair and the COVID. I have a question here from Carly. She is saying, her question is, in this ever-changing time of COVID, what does Gabriel say about reaching the more difficult people so they understand each other, has a need to remain in their own comfort zone? So let's see. In this ever-changing time of COVID, what does Gabriel say about reaching the more difficult people so they understand each other, has a need to remain in their own comfort zone? Well, Gabriel would say to that really there aren't more difficult people, first off, because we're all the same. And that, again, to what you said, Carly, in here is the need to be in their own comfort zone. That's exactly what David said. And that was before we even read the question, right? Is to where people are going to see it from their own bubble. So other people, they may be looking at things in a different way, but that doesn't make it wrong or right. That's just what they know. That's who they are. That's where they are at that moment. That's where they are. So all we can do is be who we are in that moment, right? And get back to that, just what we're doing, and then share with them the love, that we can. And it's funny because coming back to being an executive, I own my own business. So I wear I'm a CEO and I do this spiritual work because I've said yes to it. And so I'm doing it. But at work, I have the county who's saying I have to make sure everybody's been vaccinated. And some of my staff might not be vaccinated, or they might have their own ideas about vaccine, but it's, coming a regulation if we own a healthcare facility. So my first reaction was, okay, everybody has to get vaccinated or else, sorry, you can't have a job. That was my human reaction. It didn't set well with me at all. It actually made me very sick that day. I mean, I was just exhausted from the whole thing, the whole discussion. And then I went into another meeting the next day with some other administrative people through the state, and we're figuring it out, right? So that we're not going to have to fire anybody if they have medical or whatever. I mean, we're going to figure it out. And I don't know what that looks like, but I had to let it go. But my first thought was I really got into it in my mind, and I was scared. And I thought, okay, I'm a CEO. I go by the book in every way. So if the state says we have to do that, and then I thought that's not really in alignment with, because that's not letting people do individually what they believe in their soul that needs to happen. Because this, for a lot of people, the vaccine is a soul calling or not, or it's something that they feel strongly about if they do, or it could be a medical issue, or if they can't have children issue, or whatever their fears are. So, that was for me like a big, to your question, Carly, something I had to face this week about letting people, and just letting it go. And as soon as I let it go and I give it to the angels, I give it to God, I give it to source, then it'll work. For me, it works itself out. And the worry went away. And then the next day I got on the call with, some folks in the state, and they were telling me there are, we're not going to have to worry too much right now about that. I mean, we're going to do it, but there are circumstances where, where they
Yeah,
don't
it seems
have
like
to.
there's a lot of variances to that mandate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if people have religious beliefs and things like that,
Yeah.
how do you supersede that?
Yeah. And how do I become somebody that's going to take away their rights
Right.
as an employer? All of a sudden, I mean, that was my big thing. I thought, well, usually I just do mind my own business, do my own thing. All of a sudden, I'm in a position where I'm having to literally.
Yeah, you're gonna we're in the polarized environment, so you're going to experience contrast whether you like it or not, or want it, or no matter what, right? Are you drinking lemonade?
Mm-hmm.
So am I.
Exactly.
And I never drink lemonade. It's so funny that we're doing that. I never drink
Doesn't it
lemonade. I
taste
drink water or
refreshing?
iced tea.
I
And tonight
know.
I thought, oh, Michael made lemonade out of nowhere. And I thought, I'll have lemonade. It's so funny. We are so flaming
In tune. Yeah, we're drinking. It's
So
refreshing.
it's really is about the reaching the more difficult people. It's taking the judgment out of the experience of others. And what really helps for me, and helps for most people that we talk to, when you start viewing everything here as a temporary human experience that eternal souls are experiencing, and to quote Abraham, there's no getting out of this alive. We're all going to have a life experience, and it's all going to be temporary, and it's all going to come to a close, and we're going to transition to our eternal state.
Yes.
And this is just an experience. So if you start thinking of your consciousness as eternal, and you have endless experiences or endless expressions of source, which is what the stream says, then this life, you take the pressure off of this life having to be something that's perfect. And all of the pressure we place on our lives is really, think about it, it's what we're taught to think. Yeah. It's the programming that you're supposed to be this. When you're raised in the church, you're supposed to be this kind of person, and then you're supposed to have this kind of education and this kind of career and this kind of family and this kind of relationship, and you're supposed to look this way, and your body should look like this, and all of these things that we're taught that are not necessarily true for everyone, obviously, or even attainable for everyone, so it seems. And then we judge ourselves against that. It lowers our vibration. We feel bad about ourselves. We hold ourselves away from joy. And source, God, however you want to refer to that, is about joy and love, and not about judgment and fear and hating yourself for not being perfect or living up to someone else's standards. So when we take the judgment out of judging others and ourselves, and just allowing everyone to have their experience and appreciation, we're actually offering more to humanity in that higher vibrational place than saying, gosh, that's wrong and that shouldn't be, and we need to help them. Notice that it's always just a vibration. Very little is done to actually help. It's just an emotion about it, that they shouldn't be having that experience. Well, who are we to judge someone else's experience? We're not in it. And we've all been through what a lot of people would call traumatic experiences. And actually, when we look back on them, we realize we are more sophisticated beings having had that difficult time. So why would we take that away from other people?
Right, right. And parents are the biggest, for that, not wanting to see their kids ever go through any struggles. That's, I'm
but parents are also the biggest deliverer of contrast in a lot of people's
It's very true.
Yeah, I did. One of my most popular podcasts on the Stream of David podcast was called "Your Parents Were Supposed to Screw You Up."
No.
It's had hundreds of thousands of downloads. People are always intrigued by that, and it goes into that because we're all born up to speed with the time that we project into. That's why the youth of today operate their lives very differently than we Gen Xers do, and we Gen Xers are very different than our Boomer parents,
right?
Because we're born up to speed the vibration of our time. So you and your children are naturally going to have this disconnect that's going to create some contrast in the relationship.
Yeah.
But that contrast is actually serving to make us more sophisticated beings. So that we don't turn into carbon copies of our parents.
And then you take it to another level that I've been able to experience is that having grandchildren, and that just for some reason, grandparents and grandchildren are on the same vibration usually.
It's that flow.
Yeah, because I'm like so in vibration with my grandkids. I'm like, I am just so in vibration with my kids, but with my grandkids, I feel like I'm just right there. They're in their vibration.
Well, do you think it's the pressure is off a little bit, and you have the wisdom and the emotional maturity to just really kind of allow them to be and appreciate them? Instead of needing them to be a reflection of you. Isn't that cool?
Yes, it's very cool. Yeah. So energetically, that love is I had an employee today who was so excited because he has a 2-day-old granddaughter, and this is his first grandchild. And oh my God, he's just like on cloud nine. And I know that feeling from when I had my first he's like, I just have to go smell her. I said, I know, you can just smell her forever, that baby. And that's just so precious. I mean, it's something, and I know, when I had my babies, I enjoyed smelling them, but not that much. I mean, when I had my grandkids, all I wanted to do was hold them and smell them. I mean, there's something about it's just.
Well, this is something interesting the stream shared one time that, and I never thought of it this way, but the reason that we find infants so appealing, like I'm not into children personally. I've never wanted to be a parent. I've never wanted to have that experience, but I just adore infants. I mean, how can you not adore babies, right? Yeah. Little babies. When they start talking, I'm kind of done for about 18 years. But, but babies, of course, we find them very appealing. Someone has a baby. What happens? Everybody wants to come see the baby.
Yes.
That is law of attraction at play. That is by universal design. That infant is attracting multiple people to it to absorb information and learn how to be a human being for more than just their parent. Isn't that cool? I never thought about that. That came up in a channeling session that magnetism of an infant is a natural state of being, so the child can learn from more other human beings other than just the immediate family.
Wow. There's a definite attraction.
The universe is so perfect that the whole law of attraction thing, it is everything. And it's just the perfection of the universe. When you really get into studying it, and understanding how it works, it is everything.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, he had asked me, he said, was it wrong for me because somebody had asked if they could hold her? And I said, no. And I said, no. I mean, because, she's only 2 days old. And this is a stranger wanted to hold her. I said, no.
Yeah, and right now with everything.
Oh my God! I said with COVID and everything, no, I would never let anybody.
I would never ask to hold anybody's child. I mean, I love infants, but I would never.
Yeah, I said no. The most I'll do when I see the baby, because I do get this desire to touch them, is can I ask if I could touch their little toes? If I'm really and I've never been turned down to just touch the little toe just real quick.
Oh yeah, I guess there's nothing wrong with asking, and there's certainly nothing wrong with saying no.
And it hasn't been that often, but it's happened to me where I wanted to really touch a baby, but not a newborn 2 days old. And I told him, no, you're right on, spot on. It's fine. That person, just had this attraction, this desire to this baby, but there's no way in heck would you want them to touch them. Not with COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, or anything. They're really, that's
Anything,
really, really young
anything.
to
I
be
wouldn't. Yeah,
doing that. Yeah.
it's
But I think again, people find infants so appealing, they
yeah,
probably couldn't help but ask.
yeah. No,
In
they
that
can't help but
moment,
ask.
I need to, experience that
Yeah.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to experience that baby feeling. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jim says about Carly's question. Good question, Carly. Separation is causing difficulty in all our days. So he's referring to the separation of people right now. Do you
Yeah,
feel?
I'm I roll with whatever humanity or whatever the universe brings, I should say. And humanity and the universe has brought us COVID. And there are annoyances in it for sure, but I have really come to appreciate the perfection of just the flow that it's presented in my life. Because
Mhm.
I moved to Palm Springs just a few years ago, and Palm Springs, as you know, you live out here,
Yep.
and we've been to get dinner together, and it's
Oh,
very social.
yes.
It's about
Yes.
where you're going to dinner, are you going to a party this weekend, that sort of thing. And I went through that. I had a social life as an adult, really for the first time in my life, because I've always just worked all the time.
Yes.
I've been very work focused my whole life, and I move here, and it's very social.
I
And
know.
I really
Palm Springs
enjoyed
for
it.
me
I was
has done the
going
same
out,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Like
going out every
shelter.
night. You can go
Mhm.
out every night here in the gatherings, and then all of a sudden, all that stopped, and
Yes.
it was really just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm done with that phase now. And now, instead of missing it,
Yeah.
move on to okay, this is what I'm going to do instead of that. And
Right.
then we started, kind of back up, and now it seems like it's shutting down again.
Yeah.
So it's just finding appreciation in your now,
Yeah.
rather
In
than
our now,
thinking,
that's
gosh, this is so
exactly
different.
right. So, we could say we're out to dinner now and, let's enjoy it because who knows really literally what's going to happen tomorrow. I remember when they kept opening and closing the restaurants and
Mhm.
my family and I would go out to eat and we'd be so excited. It's like, let's go out to eat. And then sure enough, 2 days later they'd close them. We'd be like, hey, at least we went out, to eat while they were open. We got to support the local restaurant. I mean, and enjoy ourselves just for a minute. I wasn't. It
Yeah,
was.
that taking life and breaking it up into just a collection of experiences, and
Mhm.
taking the judgment out of this is good. We think linearly, right? We think in linear terms. And here we are, and we look back here, and this was bad, and this was good, and this was traumatic, and this was stressful, and this was, amazing. And instead, I always say break it all up into these little bubbles of experience, take the
Mhm.
judgment out of it, and
Yes.
realize that wow, that time I lost my job ended up being a great learning experience for me. The time I went broke, the time I was cheated on in my relationship, the time I was really, really sick, all of those things enriched my eternal being
Yes.
because I came to earth and had a human experience, and my eternal being has been forever expanded in all of the experiences, not just the fun stuff,
Hmm. And
because
everything.
we're not just here for that.
No, we're not. Yeah, that's very true. So, is there any message that the stream wants to give to our audience tonight?
I think we're flowing in it right now.
I do
The message
too.
that I will share with them without going into full blown channeling, because they're always anytime I'm buzzy. Do you get buzzy? Do you
I
get
do. Like right
yeah?
now, I just did. Like right.
Anytime I'm buzzy, it's flowing and they're here, and it's not
Yeah.
exactly the same. If you go and watch my YouTube videos and stuff like that,
Yeah.
my when we get deep into channeling, it's a little different. But
Yeah.
really, the overriding message is that it is possible for us to shift our mindset about our lives and humanity and the human experience and experience far more joy than we allow ourselves, because we allow ourselves to run on this human programming of fear and judgment. And when you learn to detune fear and judgment, your whole world opens up. And suddenly, COVID is no big deal. Everyone's having an experience. Some people get sick. Some people even cross over from it. But
Yes.
we're eternal souls having a temporary experience.
Hmm.
And the idea of a right or wrong span, that's we've sort of programmed ourselves to believe that.
Yeah.
And I love the example that the stream gives, because we always want to say, well, what about XYZ? How could someone have manifested this horrible thing? How could you say it's okay for someone to die young from something? But think about young children. We all know these stories, these young children that are born with something like terminal cancer.
Hmm.
And you hear their stories, and they only make it to 5 or 6 years of age sometimes, and maybe they live their whole life in a hospital. And then when they cross over, everyone talks about what a bright light they were and how much wisdom they had.
Hmm.
In the stream said in one of our sessions, that is a highly sophisticated soul coming to earth to have that contrasting experience for the experience,
Hmm.
aligning vibrationally with being born into illness or war or poverty or anything that we don't understand,
Right.
because we're judging it from our comfortable lives.
Right.
And we're not seeing it through their eyes. And that's why that little child was such a bright light, because they were having exactly the experience their soul was choosing. And the people around them, even though they're missing, of course, when you love someone and they cross over, you're going to miss them terribly. And the grieving process is probably lifelong. But finding appreciation for what was rather than the loss of it, whatever it is, and finding appreciation for the experience rather than the pain or the trauma of it.
Well, what I'm feeling also is right now that a lot of people, now that we're 18 months, 2 years into this thing, are realizing possibly that a lot of good has come from it into their lives. So it could be that they did switch their jobs. Maybe a lot of people were not, they say, oh, a lot of folks aren't working now. Well, they lost their jobs, and so they're doing different things. There's so many people.
Yeah, they actually found a way to make a living doing something they're more passionate about.
There have been more business licenses applied for, small businesses. So they're actually figuring out how to do their own passion, whether it be, selling crafts on Etsy, or I don't know. There's just so many people are being, not everybody, but, they were able to let go of maybe that job that they didn't really like and that hustle bustle and get into their creativity at home, on the internet, whatever it is. So it's been, that's where the evolution you could see.
Yeah. Well, I love
the evolution of these 2 years have just been like skyrocket, right?
Yeah. Well, it's made us more sophisticated beings. We have I had this conversation today. We have discovered, and I've worked from ever since I left my corporate job and started my business is a virtual, online business. We're global because we have the podcast. We go everywhere. We have clients all over the world, and everything is done from here. And all of my employees work all over the world. Wow. And the idea of leaving your home and getting in a car to sit in traffic, to go to a workspace, to sit in a cubicle, to sit at a computer and do exactly the same thing that you could do at the comfort of your home. And what we have found is that the workforce is actually more productive at home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I've been saying that for years. I get more done at home.
Saving. Yeah. Yeah. So now I made the decision. Our company is expanding. We're hiring dozens of spiritual coaches and all kinds of people.
Wonderful.
I'm staying virtual.
Yes.
I can hire people. I've got employees on 4 continents right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's crazy. So we can hire people all over the world to run 24/7 and do what we do. And I don't have to build a building or lease office space. We can be very efficient and work from home.
Wow.
We even have a break room in my company.
You do?
We have a virtual break room. And
how cool. See, that's amazing. That's all the evolution that we keep talking about, that we're feeling. I mean, I know Gabriel had said to me a couple of years ago, before this happened, there was something big happening. There's going to be an evolution. I mean, we didn't get into whole details about it, but now, obviously I know what it is. But this is all part of evolving. And for a long time, people were having trouble with that, concept. But now that we're kind of getting towards the other side of it, I think we're realizing, and one of the big pieces is technology, and how a lot of businesses have just taken off. And you're right, we're better. A lot of people are better working from home. I mean, I know I've always done better working from home. Now, our treatment center, we have been live the whole time because of the addiction piece. And, we've been available live for assessments and therapy and groups for individuals with behavioral health and substance abuse. But that's because the suicide rate and the overdose rate has just gone through the roof also during this time. So we were able to
more. That's why we need to really get the message out more, that there's a possibility of appreciating what is, and appreciating the contrast, and really embracing it. And it's not about inauthentically bypassing it either. It's finding deep, authentic appreciation and love for all that is. And when you do, then all of that love just bubbles up within you. That source connection is completely realized, and you can handle anything from that space.
That's true. Now, there was another question here that Debbie had put up a minute ago. Let's see, what was that, Deb? Do you want to put that back up? There we go. I was reading that if an employer mandates a vaccine and the employee has side effects from it and misses work, it can become a work comp case because they took it to keep their job. Have you heard that or have an opinion? Yes, Lorraine, that's absolutely true. And that's something I found out yesterday from a colleague of mine that works for workers' comp. And she said she's starting to see the cases come through workers' comp already. So yeah, that really puts employers in a position, because we would be liable if anything happens if we're mandating them.
Yeah, if you're mandating a vaccine, then you're responsible.
Yeah, even though
especially in California.
the state is mandating it of us as a healthcare provider, so it gets very tricky. But like somebody said on our call, who's going to sue the state? It'd be easier to sue me.
Yeah. Well, if the state mandates it, though, I think you would ultimately not be held accountable for it if the state is mandating it.
The state's mandating it for our license, for our healthcare facility. That's the only reason, is because it's state mandated. So yeah, I think that would help out. And then, but if they have medical issues, then they don't have to get it, because then they would be at risk. So that's
well, and you can always, and I'm not an expert on this. I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but it seems to me that there's always a religious, spiritual exemption. Because I talked to one of our boot camp people that are in my program about that today. She works in healthcare here in California, and she has not gotten the vaccine, and she's really challenged by that. There's she has to get it, and it's instilling some fear.
Yes.
And, the worst thing, in my opinion, knowing what I know about universal law, the worst thing you can do is be fearful of something and do it anyway.
That's right.
You need to detune the fear and then go into it. I have an anecdote of a friend of a friend who, a man in his 50s, was terrified of COVID and terrified of the vaccine and died of COVID. Because he was afraid to get the vaccine and he was afraid of COVID.
Right.
I've been guided away from fear my whole life and everything. So I have not been fearful of COVID. I haven't been impacted by it personally. And when the vaccine came out, I thought I went to the stream and really went into the depths of, okay, should I get this? Should I not get this? It's not really tested. It's not really proven. And it was the preference was part of it, but path of least resistance. What is the path of least resistance? And for me, I decided just get the vaccine. Yeah. For me, it was easier to just get the vaccine because I know it's going to be an issue. We went out the other night and we had to show our vaccination card to go into a business.
Yeah, and
it was just easier for me to do it.
And I was guided that it would flow through me. But what was interesting is that I had a lung problem last year, and I had to have a lung procedure. So I think you knew about that. And I had for 6 months, 89% oxygen. So I was really sick for a while. And when I had that, I was scared to death of COVID. It was during COVID. So I was just scared of COVID. And so I didn't get COVID. I didn't leave the house. And then I got my procedure. I felt 99% better, meaning 99% oxygen. So I was, about 100%. And then when this thing came up with the vaccine, I just felt like it'll just flow through me because my doctor said I had to have it because of my lung thing. And I wasn't worried about it. And like you said, I asked God, I asked angels, I asked Gabriel. And before I had my procedure, it was no to everything. Like literally, I was getting no to everything except to stay home and get your procedure because my body was, I had a thing going on. But once that cleared up, then it was fine. So listen to your body, listen to your spirit, listen to your soul on the vaccine and talk to God about it and say what, and intuitively you'll get the answer. You will get that stream. You will get that flow through you where it's going to say a big yes, or it's going to pull you back and say a big no. And that's what I've been getting from the people. It's like, I get this big fat no. And I know what that was like. I had that before my lung procedure. But once my lung got fixed, then, then my body could heal and flow anything through.
Yeah. So, I always say, make sure, meditate or pray or do whatever it is you do and raise your vibration and ask. Because you are straight up source connected.
That's
when you're
right.
That high vibration. If you're down in fear and you're asking in fear, you're going to tap into that energy field, and that's
a good point. Thank you, David. That's the perfect yes. So tap into the higher source in meditation, and then ask. I love that. You're right, because when people ask when they're in fear, they're always going to get that fear. No,
and a lot of people identify that as dark or evil. I don't really identify that
either.
Way. It's just less than source.
Yeah,
that's how it's less than source. It's a little more rooted in ego, and the fear-based ego stuff can bubble up and give you not a false answer. It's just the vibration you're in. So the vibration you're in is fear. You're going to get a fearful answer. Be afraid of all of it. Don't do anything. That's
right. And we can easily get into that. As humans, that's just
you got to check your vibe, and then my rule of life is check your vibe, and then certainly
check your vibe and then ask the question.
Don't open your phone. Don't go on Facebook until the vibe is.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Pray for that. to get, or, like you said, pray, meditate, and get to that higher vibe of joy. Try to, turn on some music to where you're going to, for me, it's just like I turn on, some music. I love listening to Bliss and, just something like that. And then just get into that place of meditation and prayer, and then ask, and the answers will be clear. I love that.
Yeah,
That really
you
helped me.
cannot go
That was a
wrong when
quick
you're
reminder for me. No, there's
yeah,
nowhere to
that's
go wrong
source
with that.
connected. That's your intuition.
Mhm.
You cannot go wrong with that.
You
That is your very
cannot go
best
wrong with
guidance.
that. We all have it. We all have this gift. That's what Gabriel says. It's not a gift. We all have this ability to tap into source. And so many people have different ways. They tap in through their music, through their art, through their poetry, through their writing. A lot of writers, it's just however our vibration moves source through us when we align with it and ask, and the other thing is, if you're going to ask and then you're going to get it, and then you're going to, and then you get this calling that you're going to do something big with your life, not big, but something spiritual with your life. Be mindful when you say yes to God, when you say yes to source, because that's a beautiful path to go down, but it's also a path to go down. So,
I love it.
it's a beautiful path to go down. But like you said, for years, you weren't sure how to say it. For years, I wasn't sure how to say it. So for the people in our audience that are just tapping into, because I always say they wouldn't be watching us if they weren't tapping into this energy that we have right now, that to listen to your vibration as you're meditating and praying, and know that you have these gifts, or whatever, like that you have. Those are my words. Gabriel says those are my words, that you have the ability to do all of the things that you want to do, that you feel. So when you feel that lightness about you, and you feel that joy about then you're on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you're feeling that joy. Joy is always good. You can't be enjoying.
Joy is when you're in joy. We were talking the other day about the difference between joy and happiness. Happiness can be a temporary experience, but joy, when you're in joy, because you're not necessarily even happy in joy.
Yeah.
But joy just feels amazing. It's just
Mhm.
elation, and there's just nothing like it. And when you're in that state of joy, you are loving all that is.
You are loving all
That is source. That is the highest emotions that we can be in. And we're not there all the time because we're in a polarized environment. We're going to dip
right.
down. But I have come to understand that the dips are so valuable.
Mm.
Dips create the
Yes.
contrast
Yes.
that shows us what we need to work on.
I love that.
Shows us
I love
what's calling out to be detuned in our lives and our
Mhm.
vibration right now.
Beautiful.
And we are here to expand in the meeting that in joy and solving of it.
Mm.
And we can be much more efficient when we meet in joy than when we're
Yes,
terrified of it.
that's right. Absolutely. And the essence, I've been writing a lot about lately, the essence of bliss, the essence of source, the essence of God. So the essence of source, the feeling of it, just to have that essence in your realm. So when you feel the essence of the higher vibration, and you call for the essence of it, then it's not just where we are here, but it extends to our entire realm.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you'll be around the people, the humans, everything is going to be in alignment. So I've been, playing with the essence of it, meaning, just like so that would be like the flavor of it, the sound of it, the
Yeah,
feel.
we've coined the term the isness of it, the vibration of it, the isness.
The
It is.
isness, the essence.
It is. You're in the is of
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
desire, and when you're in the is of what you desire, it already is.
it already is.
The physical manifestation is a side effect of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we get into that. We get stuck in this physical 3D world where we think that it's not real until we tangibly see it.
Yeah.
And we have to see it to believe it, but the universe operates in reverse of that. We have to believe it to see it. And then when we do, it shows up very, very quickly. And you can show yourself how magical you truly are when you start trusting. That's what we call it TYA. TYA stands for trust your abundance. Because if you learn to trust, that was the magic thing for me in law of attraction, was learning to trust, regardless of where I am vibrationally, trusting the universe and not being in that vibration of need.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tricky place. We think we need something to be happy, and we don't.
Right.
And the cool thing is that when you release the vibration of need, because the universe answers need with yes, you need it. and you're going to keep needing it. And if you think you need something big, like I was saying earlier, if you think you need more money to be happy, or the perfect partner, or to get pregnant, or whatever it is, these big things that we all think we need, then the universe is going to continually say, yes, you need it, because we can't hold ourselves in that high vibration with something that we think we need so much. That's why we chase away the big stuff.
So we're confirming, yes, that we need it. And that doesn't necessarily.
The universe is going to say, yes, you're right.
Yes, you're right. You need
You're going
it.
to say, right. And that's why we say,
well, how are you going to get it? Well, that's my question.
Yeah. When's it going to show up so I can finally be happy? And again, the universe works in reverse. So we have to learn to be joyful without it. And then when we no longer need it, it shows up.
I love it. Yeah. Need is a word that I kind of removed from my vocabulary.
Yeah. Releasing the vibration of need. And we all think we need something. We're needy people. You know, we're expansive beings, so we all want more of something, whatever it is. But when you that desiring it and then bleeding over sort of into needing it automatically sort of takes the vibration down.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So to me now, when I see something, I appreciate that. It would be nice, and let it go.
Sure.
And let it go.
And then see what happens. See if it comes to you or not.
Yeah,
right?
I have been practicing this for over a decade, and it brings plenty of abundance when you just allow the universe to do it its own way.
Oh my goodness.
So much more efficient than we are. So much more.
So much more.
Yeah.
So much more. It's absolutely true. Anytime I've let it go, it comes to me. And I know that, and I still hold on sometimes, but
the best example of that is when people are trying to conceive a child and they just can't, and they go and adopt, and then they get pregnant.
Oh, and then they get pregnant because they let it go.
How many times have you heard of that?
Oh,
you're not the vibration of need anymore.
Yeah.
You're not the vibration of need. And, people that are born with a trust fund that start a business and it's wildly successful. Yes. And, they didn't even touch the trust fund to do it because they already had that idea of financial success.
Yeah, that they had it.
Yeah,
there was no need there. Oh,
there was no need in it. So you got to learn to
remove need from our process, from our thoughts, from our vocabulary, and just allow and appreciate.
Well, it goes back to your blissfulness, right? That state of blissful joy for no reason other than the fact that you are. Yes. And when you're in that space more and more and more of the time, the other stuff isn't so important anymore. Going up into my 30s and 40s, I thought I needed a 4,200 square foot house and all of these things to be happy. And I manifested all of that stuff and it didn't make me happy. That was a big aha. And there was no happier day than when I liquidated the 4,200 square foot house and moved into a 650 square foot condo.
Oh,
didn't stay in that small space. I couldn't do that. But the shift of, I didn't need all that stuff. I'm in this tiny space now and I'm really appreciating this flow. Wow. And it was just a really cool experience.
Oh, that's
downsize and live in such a small space compared to what I've been living in was a really cool experience. Again, I didn't stay in that square footage, but the shift, realizing that the car and the house and the stuff is nice, but if you're not joyful, it's not going to make you consistently joyful.
Right. If it's too stressful, if it owns you and you don't own it.
Yeah. And then, once you're joyful, then you're so abundant that you can experience anything that you want. If source isn't judging. So you can have anything that you want. But notice that there are people in the world that seem to have it all, yet they always want more. They've got to have that one more thing because they're still chasing joy.
Right.
Even though they figured out how to get all the material things that everybody thinks they want, they're still chasing joy in a thing.
So if we could all just remember that, to be in the place as much as possible of joy and bliss, and to try to stay in that high vibration when we're asking for the things that we want to appreciate. What words would you use? The things that
preferences. I think it's fine to have a preference.
Yeah,
there are things that are my preference, but I can live the rest of my life without them manifesting and be just fine. But it would be nice. It'd be nice to have a yacht.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a new Rolls convertible or something like that. I'm not going out looking for that, but it would be nice. So if the universe wants to send me that, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But do I need that to be joyful and love myself and all that? No, of course not.
And even to ask the questions that we're asking, that's the big thing. That's right. So to be in this beautiful place of bliss and joy when we ask our questions of God and Source, then those are the answers we're going to get from the higher vibration, rather than if we start asking questions when we're angry and fearful, then we're going to be flowing into that vibration. That was a big takeaway for me tonight from you. Thank you so much. This was absolutely beautiful. Can you believe the hour's already gone?
Right by.
Oh my gosh.
Our energy is so bouncing.
I know. We have to do more together. We're here in town.
Yeah.
I love it. This is just we were in the stream together. And
Absolutely.
in the flow. Thank you so much, David, for joining, and I can't wait for you to come back. And then I'll see you again soon, I hope. And always, you're in my, I don't know. I think about you a lot, and I just send you beautiful blessings.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks everybody for participating.
Thank you, everybody, for participating, and we'll see you next week. Good night.